Net neutrality. As you all know, it is going to be ruled on by the FCC here on the 14th of this month. And as of right now, it looks like they are going to get rid of the net neutrality protections that are currently in place. What does this mean? What this basically means is that it's going to be reclassified as Title I. A lot of you may not remember this, but we had the ISPs, our internet service providers, classified as Title I utilities before. And it was a disaster. It's why Wheeler, the former head of the FCC, reclassified them as Title II under Obama's administration. Because what essentially happened is that under the lesser restrictions of Title I, the ISPs took advantage of the lesser restrictions and essentially messed with our traffic, messed with the traffic to the point where it throttled bandwidth or just completely blocked certain services. There are plenty of court cases that show that this is exactly what happened when these ISPs were classified as Title I companies. Under Title II, they were reclassified, and thus they had to follow the concept of net neutrality, which meant that they had to treat all traffic equally, whether it was coming from a small business or some small little website or Netflix or Hulu or what have you. They had to treat all of that traffic equally. So what does this mean for us? What this means is that we are no longer going to have the kind of voice that we have gotten used to with net neutrality. Fighting for things, particularly like universal health care, is going to be much harder because we rely on our ability to communicate our views via the open internet. So what this is essentially going to mean is that getting your point across is going to be much harder. Our representatives already have a hard time listening to us because of the enormous amounts of money that they take from their corporate donors and sponsors. So this is just going to make things much worse for all of us. If you are a small business owner, let's say that you have a small website and you happen to sell, clothing, for example, on the internet via your website. And let's say your internet service provider happens to take a chunk of money from Amazon, and Amazon tells them, well, because of this money you're taking from us, we want you to clamp down on the businesses that we feel are hurting our ability to sell our products. Well, because Amazon has a lot more weight, they can get away with it. So what's going to happen is you're going to have your bandwidth throttled if your internet service provider feels that you're a competitor or you're competing against a big company like Amazon, because Amazon gives them more money to prevent that. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm getting at here? So the bigger you are, the more money you have, the more money you're going to have. So it's essentially a power grab. It's also a means of reducing our ability to speak. This is an affront to freedom of speech. It's going to make it much harder, like I said, for us to get our voice out there and get our point across. The thing is that I honestly do not feel that Ajit Pai, the current head of the FCC, and those who are against net neutrality have really thought this out. I don't think they have. Because there are communities on the internet that have a vested interest in maintaining net neutrality. And some of those organizations might decide to get kind of personal. And that's what I mean by this. I don't think this has been fully thought out. And the problem is that because 5 major corporations now control most of our media, they will be able to craft the narrative. So if anything like that does happen, let's say someone hacks into Ajit Pai's one of Ajit Pai's bank accounts and shuts the thing down. All they'd have to do is craft the narrative that this is the reason they had to do this in the first place. It's just it's going to snowball, and I see it getting really ugly. And I don't know, I honestly don't know what we're going to be able to do if net neutrality does get taken away. I don't know what our collective response to that really needs to be at this point, because it's going to be very hard for us to explain that some of the things that will be reported are actually for the benefit of the majority of the people. You understand what I'm saying? Because of their ability to craft the narrative, because our voice is going to be greatly diminished after net neutrality goes away, they'll basically be able to craft whatever narrative they want to put their own spin on it, and we'll get left looking like the bad guys. I don't know how we're going to deal with this. I mean, we can take to the streets, but we've already seen that has a very limited impact. And with somebody like Trump in office, who's already showing signs of being kind of a nut fascist, who knows how that's going to go down? I mean, this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and throws us right into a revolution. And I don't think that's really going to be beneficial for anybody. Certainly not in the short term. I don't know how all of this is going to boil down. And I don't understand what their end game is either, because they've got to be considering these things. I mean, I don't see how they couldn't be. I don't understand what the end game is here for the internet service providers. I don't understand what they're going for, because this is going to end up hurting them too. Because what people are going to do is they're just going to end up leaving their internet service providers when they realize that they're no longer getting the service that they paid for. That's what's going to happen. So I don't understand what their end game is. Those are my thoughts on net neutrality. And if you have anything you want to comment, go ahead and leave your comments below. And I'll see you again. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in.